Hello everyone, welcome back to the day 2 for our HP UFT training. I sincerely apologize for yesterday's session. There was a major confusion regarding the timing that happened, and that's the reason I really couldn't connect. But we're good to go today, so let's continue and do our day 2 today, day 3 tomorrow, and then we're going to meet next week. So primarily team, what I wanted to make sure is you all have got a chance to go through the videos that I've mentioned as part of the initial orientation and the day 1. And the fact that we have started our first project, and as part of that first project, we also started creating our data-driven framework. So the data-driven framework that we started creating team as part of our first project, I'm going to make sure that I put it up here. And the name of the sheet also is Project 1 DDF, data-driven framework. Okay, there you go. So team, I'm not sure how many of you have got access to this Google Drive yet, because it doesn't seem to be shared to anyone yet. If not, I will request once again to my technical team to make sure it goes out to all of you, so that way you have access to it. All right, how good is the screen size and everything? Because I've just had to bring a new Windows machine to be able to do this session, and I want to make sure that the clarity and everything is good at your end. I'm assuming that is so. So team, let me know if just in case there's any issues that you see. All right, very good. So team, primarily what we were trying to do is the fact that, let me try and zoom in if I can into this sheet, view, full screen. Where's zoom for? Zoom, 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 zoom. View, no? I don't see a zoom, at least in this. So team, looks like, but there should be a zoom in Google Sheet as well. Nothing here. Help, add-ons. Ideally it's supposed to be there in view. I only see a full screen, but that really doesn't zoom things in. So let's go back to the original screen size. And okay, so team, quick recap of what we tried to do in the first day of this project for data-driven framework. We picked up mortgagecalculator.org. So that's the website that we're going to be working with. And as part of this website, what we're going to be doing is focus on the fact that we will be trying to automate this specific website and make sure that we will get into the zone of taking through that entire plan as is shown here. All right. So we've put all the steps that we wanted to execute. How we also did that application under test walkthrough. We did start to write some test cases to be automated. In fact, just one test case, and we also wrote the steps specific to that specific test case. And we have just left it at that juncture because we didn't have access to unified functional testing tool. So what I did, team, and what you should all replicate is the same. Get access to the HP trial version of UFT. I believe it is now 12.02. That's the version that's going. And that way you should be able to take all the sessions that we do from now and start practicing along with me. All right, so as per our plan and as per the steps that we've been trying to do, team, if you notice that we have come till writing the detailed test steps for each test case. So I'm going to put this to 35% because we've done little progress. And the next step is to identify the test data that is required for the test steps. So as I mentioned, if you remember, team, for each of this, there is some test data associated with it, right? So we've also started putting some test data hard-coded in the sheet, and that is fine for now. When we get to the next steps, we will try and expand and see how we could do a little bit more progress. So I'm just going to do this as 20% for now. All right, team? The next job is to identify the objects in the application under test. And how do we do that? So to make sure that everything was working fine, I did install unified functional testing. I did a quick record and run so that I know for sure that everything seems to be working in the proper direction. Now, what we're going to do is we will start with an absolutely brand new test. So I'm going to go to File, new and new test. Once I do that, I am going to select GUI test because that is what we'll be doing going forward. And in here, in the name, we're going to change it to DDF1. And you can also put MC, okay, mortgage calculator, or whatever you want for the abbreviation, and say create. Now it's going to create a blank test for us, and the first step as part of this test is going to be to add the objects, identify the objects in application and test, and add the objects to the object repository. So there are two steps in it. What we're going to do is, didn't I already navigate to the webinar, to the website? Oops. This seems to get stuck. mortgagecalculator.org. And team, just to let you know, the files probably have not been shared yet. So what we will do is I'll make sure that the technical team does share it with all of you by end of the session. Okay. All right, great. So team, here is the application that is under test. Now, what we want to do is identify what are those objects that we're working with and start adding them into our object repository. So to do that, what we're going to do is, let me scroll down a little so that I can see these objects clearly. Okay, there you go. These are the objects that we want to add. We want to make sure what are those objects that we want to add and start adding them. That's the first step as part of this. Once we do that, then we'll write the automation script. Now, the first thing I would recommend team always is to make sure that you close your browser, whatever browser you have, IE and so on, and make sure that you start the browser only after you launch unified functional testing, because what that will do is otherwise it stops to recognize this application and objects, and it will cause some issues. And that is the reason I'm asking you to do it. Once you open up UFT, then you open up the browser. So team, I'm kind of aligning the windows, that way you are able to see things clearly. And here is our DDF1_MC. For us, what is important team is for you to go to action 1, and this is kind of more of a picturesque representation, but we are trying to focus on this specific area, which will be our VB script. So make sure anything you write is out here. So this is for our first test case. We have, let's go back to our drive. Project 1 DDF. And in here we have all the steps, right? So we are talking about the test case 001. What name did we give it here? So I'm going to copy this out here and put that as part of the commit. So team, if you have felt that I am skipping a few steps, for example, how do we record and run? All right. Or how do we, one second please. How do we start writing comments and all that? The reason is very simple, because as part of the prerequisites, I've asked you all to watch a few of those videos, and I'm assuming you all have done that thing. Okay, so we're doing MC_basic_TC001. That is what we're trying to automate. Now, let's go back to the plan and see where we are. We're talking about identifying the objects in the application under test, and we know that out here are those objects. And these objects that we will be using are all out here, right? These are the objects that we're going to be working with. So the second thing is we're going to go under resources and open up our object repository. So what is an object repository team? Quick recap on those fundamentals that we were talking about earlier. Object repository is kind of a small simple library that holds the names of the objects and the properties that are used to recognize these objects in the application. So what I mean is we have three things out here team, if you notice. We will have an object repository out here. Then we have the application which is under test out here. And we have the main script that is there out here. in the Action 1 tab, correct? So object repository is a placeholder where if I start writing something in my script, it first goes to the object repository to check if that object is there. It look at its name, and then it look at its properties, and then it will try and find that object in the application. What are those properties? How does it do it? We will get into it in the next project. I don't want you to focus on that right now. And because that is when we will also discover descriptive programming and how we work with it. In this case, what we're trying to do is make sure that we are able to understand the crux of the whole components, and then we will get into the depth of each of them as we move along. All right. So that is your object repository where all this information is stored. So how do you make sure that the objects are added to the application, to the object repository? One way is when you do a record, what does it do? It does two things, team. Anytime you record anything that you're doing on the application, it does two things. One is it will add the related objects into the repository. Two, it will start writing the VB script code that is needed to execute it. Now we are not doing a record. We want to control it from the ground level. How do we do it? We do it by making sure that we add the objects ourselves. And to do that, we will click on this add objects to local. So there are two types of object repositories that we will encounter as we go along. One is local that we're working with. Then you'll see something called as a shared object repository that we will get to at a little later point in time. But for now, we are focused on the local object repository. What does a local object repository mean, team? The one that is associated with this specific test and with this specific action. Okay, that is what is our intent. We are not worried about anything else other than that. All right. So let's click on add objects to local. As soon as we do that, you will notice that your mouse has now become a kind of a pointer hand. You can keep your control pressed down to be able to perform any regular mouse operations. And now we are interested in home value. Do I click on home value text here, or do I click on this 300,000? Which one do I click? I am not interested in this label. This is different from this object, which is the actual WebEdit field. Now, when we add this object, it will tell us what type of an object it is and where it is located. How many of you have already got that comfort level of what the object types are and how is that located in terms of a browser page? What is your comfort level, team? Anyone who's not really seen it, those videos so far? So you can let me know, team, because there's so many participants. Anyone who's not comfortable with what the structure is, I will do a quick recap, definitely. But I still want you to go back and watch it because there's so many fundamental ideas. Once I keep diving into it, it'll take a long time. All right. Were we supposed to see chapter 1 and 2 or more than that? Much more than that, Gary. There were 7 chapters I said. In total, it was about 5 or 6 hours of content that I had asked to watch. They were not big, but they were fundamentally rich enough to get you that start. All right. Now, when we adding this, let me talk about what this is. It basically says that, all right, Karthik, very good job. You have clicked on that add object to local, that plus sign, and you pointed to the object that you wanted to be recognized both in object repository and in the script. Excellent. Great job. And now what it does is for a unified functional testing or QTP, which is the same tool, which is just now UFT is the advanced version of it. It needs to know details about this object. Why does any automation tool need to know the details about this object? Very simple, team. If you look at it, for example, if I tell you that, hey, listen, I have left a file in my office. Can you go and bring it? Okay. What would you do? You're probably my friend. I know you, or you work with me. You know where my office is. You know where my desk in the office is. And you probably will ask me, which file are you saying? Correct? But what if you're a robot? You're someone who cannot think by yourself, but you're amazing at following instructions. What would you say? All right, Karthik, very good, thank you. Where is your office? Then you'll say, where is your desk in the office? And then you'll ask me, where is that file? Correct? So you need to be able to identify exactly the location of it, and then you'll go and do it. Unfortunately, these automation tools are stupid. Why? Because they're only as smart as you can think. But once you give them the right instructions, you will start seeing the power of it. Okay? The power of these automation scripts and tools team, you will know it and appreciate it as we develop this data-driven framework or any other scripts that we work on. In the same manner, it is saying there is a browser which is very similar to the office I was saying. The location, the street address of that specific office. In that office, we're saying where the desk is, and that is the page. And in that desk, we're saying what is that file, and that is this WebEdit. So just an example that I've given, what I'm translating in here. So for UFT to be able to identify what that object is and where it is located, only then it can do a certain activity. So if I may take a simple notepad team to explain this, because it's a very important concept. Okay. I'm going to use this a white background and use this drawing tools to be able to talk about that. Okay. Everything that you see that an automation script needs to do is always related with an object. Object is primarily that WebEdit or that link or the image or the buttons. All of these things that you find on the web page that a web page is built on are called as objects. Okay. Now there are certain properties of these objects which are used to identify them. Okay. Properties like, for example, it is a button and it has this name, or it is an image and it has this URL to it, or let's say it's a link and it has this name to that link. That is how you identify any specific object. And then there are also additional properties that are there to describe it. The descriptive properties or the properties that additionally describe an object could be something like this. Let's say if you want to identify a car, you'll say what is the license plate number or a VIN number and so on. That is used to identify a car. That is unique enough for that car and it is enough for us to identify. But how else can you describe? Is it a Mercedes? Is it a Beamer? Is it an Acura? What color is it? What kind of, is it a sedan or a sports or an SUV and so on? How many wheel drive is it? All of this describe it. So when you ask for example, if your friend says that, hey, I bought a new car, will you ask what is the license plate number for that car? Or will you ask what car is it? What is the make? What is the model? What kind of features it has? What color is it? Those are the things we ask because that is used to describe. So QTP needs to know definitely those identification properties. That is where we start from. Okay. And then there are descriptive properties. These are the two types of properties that will always define an object, just for your reference team. Okay. We will go very deep into this in the next project when we start doing descriptive programming. But for now, these are the concepts you should know. Some properties to identify, some properties to describe it. Okay, if you want to identify Karthik, you can use my email, my phone number, my social security number. But to describe me, you have to say that, okay, he's a male, he's so-and-so tall, and he's got black hair or gray hair, all of that stuff just to describe me, right? Now, depending on the type of an object, you have certain methods that you can perform on it. All right. What do I mean? If I say there is a car, it is a type of an object. You will use some identification properties to identify it, some describing properties to be able to describe. What can you do with a car? Can you basically go and fly a car? No, you can drive a car. You can park a car. You can move forward. You can move backward. You can turn right and left and so on. There are specific things that you could do on a car, and that are the methods that you can perform. Depending on the type of an object, the methods will change. What do I mean? For example, if I say a smartphone like the iPhone 6 or Samsung Note and so on are a different type of an object. What can you do with a smartphone? You can browse, you can do WhatsApp, you can make calls, you can chat, and so many other features you can use. But you can't drive it, you can't go park it and so on. Why? Because the object is different. Alright? Similarly, team, when it comes to our unified functional testing, we will be able to decide what we can do on that object also in the same manner. Okay? Now, we will come to this in a quick second, but for you now, we are saying that this is how it is stored. The WebEdit that we selected is stored here. Now I'm going to click on OK. When I click on OK, team, it gets added under the test objects. Second thing that is important for you to note is this object properties at a high level. What is the name that you want to call? Let's say you have 3-4 cars. All right. Or let's say, for example, you're a pet lover, you have 3-4 dogs. You don't call them by German Shepherd or, I'm bad with dog names and types, but I used to love dogs a lot, but now it's been a while, I've been off of it. So there's so many types of dogs. You won't call them by the breed name, right? You would name them. You would give something that you can refer your specific pet with, and you can name them, you can call them by that name. Similarly, you can call these objects by name. By default, there is something that is coming here which is called as your logical name. How does QTP give this name by itself? It looks at certain properties that are there in the web page behind this object in the HTML script, and it puts that information. But you have the choice to change that information. So for example, here it says param square brackets home value. I'm not interested in such a thing. I'll just say home value. That seems to be more a logical name for me. So you have the option to change that, and you will. Okay. Next is the class. What is a class of an object team? Class of an object primarily means that every object belongs to a specific category or a type. So cars will all fall under one class. Smartphones will all fall under one class. Your homes will fall under one class. People will fall under one class. This is how we categorize anything that we see around the world. Your laptops will fall under one class. So when we say laptop, we know what we mean. Your laptops will not look like a car. It will not look like a human or a house. It will look like a laptop. Maybe it's a different color. Maybe it's a different make, but it'll still have a screen. It'll have a keypad and all that. Could be a different size. For example, I'm using one of the smallest laptops ever right now in this Windows. I'm very fancied with small devices. So this is like 11.6 inch screen, but it's still a laptop for me. And that is how I'm using it. All right. So the point of identifying what kind of an object it is defined by the class team. Okay. So the class tells what the object types, and that is fixed, that you cannot change. That is defined by the properties of that object. Fair enough so far, everyone? Did I lose anyone out here, or are we all in the same mode? Let's see if I have any questions. I just want to make sure, because it's a little early, day 2, so I don't want to leave anyone behind on it. That's the reason I'm trying to go back and look at any of the questions. Could you please, the link for the videos, the link for chapter 2 to 5? No, why should I? It is disabled, of course, Rashmi, because it's only for the premium members. All the members who are part of the sessions will get it. So send an email. We've been sending emails constantly to this group of registrants to look at the videos, do it. Very important, team, as part of this training and whatever you follow is following the protocol. We do have a teacher and a trainer and a trainee mentality. I will give instructions, you must follow it, because I know from my expertise how you can really master HP, QTP or UFT, and I want you all to be very carefully listening into me, to our emails and communication, because we will communicate. If you say that, oh no, I didn't check the email, oh no, I didn't follow the instructions, then it is really not serving the purpose. So please make sure that you have the confidence in what we're trying to do and you're following our protocol. All right, very important, please. Audio has been lost, Sagar. I'm not sure because we have so many members out here. They all seem to be doing fine. Is the name case sensitive while scripting? Good question, Gary. We will come to that specific question slowly. Okay. Is VB scripting case sensitive? Are the names case sensitive? And this is the way I will look at things. Okay. I will say everything is case sensitive. Okay. That is how we should try and behave, because there are certain things in VB scripting that are not case sensitive, like programming. Instead of browser, I write with the uppercase or lowercase b, it does not matter. But if I say home value now with the lowercase h and v will matter. So ideally, there's a mixture of both, but you should try and keep your case sensitiveness every time. That's a thumb rule. But again, the reason is because VBScript is not a very strictly defined programming language. It is more liquid and it's more free styling. Does the name needs to have no spaces? So Satish, good question. I don't know. I'm not sure. And I'm telling you honestly, I'm not sure about myself. Why? Because I would never give a space when naming something. I would give either an underscore or a hyphen, or just say, like in this case, home value. H is uppercase, value is uppercase. That is enough for me to identify, right? So I don't really need to give a space. Now, the best thing to do is let's give a space and see if it works. Okay. So I'm going to give a space here and try and close this. Okay. Looks like it is okay, but that I would not recommend that as a good process to follow, because it will, even when you're naming variables, then it will not be the same. In fact, I didn't even have to go there to look at it. Look at mortgage space calculator. It is named with a space. It is not named without. But as a process and as a methodology, we should try and follow a specific protocol that will help us overall. And I would believe, don't give any spaces, don't give anything, just try and continue to write it. All right. Clarify more again about class. We will, Anit, we will be doing it. Okay, when first class will be starting? Very strange question. I don't even want to answer that right now. All right, team, let's continue with this. Now, home value. We have talked about the home value, and now let's continue to add more objects. The idea is to make sure that we add all the objects that we want first, and we are not thinking what to do at this point, team. Are we thinking what to do now? Not at all. When did we think about what to do? We thought about it when we put our plan together. So the thinking is done at that time, nothing right now. So now we have added the second object. If you notice, under the same browser, under the same page, we now have two objects. One is home value, the next is principal. What is principal? Principal is primarily referring to what is the loan amount that you're taking. If you're not comfortable with the word principal, okay, no problem, let's change it. And let's say loan amount seems to be more apt for our understanding, and as per what we see here, we're going to change it that way. Okay, but if you notice, both of these objects are under the same page. Why? Because it's the same page. If I navigate to a different page and then add an object, it will come under a different page. Right now they're all here. And if you notice, team, depending on the type of the object, for example, this is browser, it has got this kind of a lens, a magnifying lens as an icon. This is a web page. It has got a simple A4 size page as an icon. This is a WebEdit where you can write some information, where you can type any kind of information and submit. And that is why it is given this pencil kind of an icon, because you're able to write onto it. Okay. Now let's continue to add more objects, team. So I'll also add interest rate, and this one, let me call just as simply as a rate. Okay. One more object, not one more, but few more. I have loan term. Actually, we'll add all of these, team. Should we just say term or loan term? Loan term is fine. The thing is, it should not be too long, and it should be very obvious when you look at the name what it is. Okay. Then I have the start date, and this, if you see, is showing already as a different icon because it is no longer a WebEdit field. What is the difference between WebEdit and a select or a drop down list, team? In a WebEdit, you will enter an information, you will key it in. Here, you're going to select one of the information that is available. Okay, so this is the start month. Okay, so we're going to say start month. That is the name for it. Okay. Next, so team, if you notice, I have not yet come to this test object details. These are the set of information that is used to identify the object. We are not worried about it for now. Okay. Next, we have start year, and the class of this object is a web list. Why a web list? As I said, it is because it's a drop-down list. It is different from a WebEdit. Then we have property tags PMI. I'm ignoring for now, team. We will try and come back and add later. Let us do the calculate button. Now do you see? It's a web button. Icon changes and a lot of other details of identification also changes, but it's important for you to note. So calculate is a button as is, and good thing is the name also came very logically, exactly how we would write it ourselves if we did it. The reason we are adding objects to the object repository and we are giving it our own specific custom names is so that we are in control of everything. That is it. Okay? Only because we want to be able to decide and say what we want to do, how we want to do. Why? When you do a record of this test in a similar fashion, instead of going in this method, it will absolutely be faster team. It will quickly do everything. It will write the script and add the objects at the same time. It's a very quick thing. But then you will have to go and customize it, because at the end of the day, record and run is hardly any use in the practical industry. So if you go to any interview and say that I'm very good at recording and running QTP and UFT tests, then you don't have to worry about spending any more time of yours or the interviews out there. Just walk out. You'll never get the job. Very simple team. Because that is not what the industry wants. The industry wants you to understand that every application is different. Every testing process is different. If you need to be part of that specific testing team, you should be able to do customizations, be able to implement in the manner that that team, that project wants. And that is the reason we are going in this specific manner, team. You take this approach, you talk about it in an interview and say that this is how we did, and say how we went about, and tell me if there's someone who will not be impressed. And I will guarantee you it will not happen. But you need to be part of it. You need to focus and make sure that we're all going in the right direction. And team, sorry if I sometimes come across very curt and straight, but I believe in myself. I believe in what I'm trying to say, and the message is very clear. I want clarity. I have a very clear thought process. I want you also to think in that same manner. Okay? Then there's never a confusion, and that is when our confidence will come up. Okay? There are a few questions that are here. I will come to it as and when we go forward. But right now we have added, hopefully, almost all the elements or the objects that we want. Very good team. So that is done. Let's go back to our plan and let us say that we have identified the objects. I would say about 35%. Okay. And we have also added that object into the object repository. So far, this is the status. Now comes the next step where we want to write the automation script for each test case. Right now, we just have one test case, no problem, but we want to write the automation script for this. To do that, what I would suggest is go to your test steps. Your test steps already have exactly what those steps are. So you're going to copy them. All right. As is, copy the steps and put it in your script. Why? Because you want to be able to translate that English that you wrote in the manual test cases into an automation step. To do that automation step execution, you should be able to understand what to do and how to do. So the first step, team, out here is open the website. Now, what are all these things in green that are there here? Green color code. Can anyone tell me, please? Team, I'm assuming all of you have gone through those basic videos. So what are these green color codes? Not commands, they're comments. What are comments? They're not even statements, team. Specifically comments. I have a very specific question. There is only one answer to it. It is not comment. It is not commented. It is not command, because there are multiple of them. There are all comments. What do you mean by comments now? Comments are information or piece of code that we don't want to execute. So primarily we have, it's a language team. It's basically, let's say we have a dog. I'll try my level best to draw a dog, but please don't laugh at me. Alright, so let's assume that this is a dog team in your wildest imagination. Let's not put it as a smiling face because he's not too happy about my drawing either. And you as a human are trying to give instructions to this dog, okay? You say sit, you say stand, you say walk and whatever, and this good dog is gonna execute it, okay? So anything that you give as an instruction in its own language that it can understand, either you have taught it English or Spanish or Hindi or Telugu, doesn't matter what language, there is some level of understanding between you and this dog. You give it an instruction, it will follow. And sometimes you still want to talk regularly, which is not taken as an instruction. It is general talk, general stuff, but the dog does not understand, or the dog absolutely ignores it. And those are like comments. So there are pieces of code that are used to execute and be performed on, and there are pieces of code that are just supposed to be treated as ignore these things. Then why even keep it there if it's ignored? These are notes to ourselves. Karthik, I am myself writing this code. Why do I need to maintain code or comments for myself? I am writing this code. I know what I'm doing. Why should I write a comment here? And team, this is one of the most fundamental qualities of any software professional. Asking that question why for everything till you get to the root cause or till you bug someone beyond your own job. All right. But that is how we discover and we kind of get to know the depth of anything. Why do we write this, team? Because today I am writing this. Tomorrow there may be someone else in the team who may be using it to upgrade, to update, or to execute or do whatever they want. Why? You may move into a different project, you may leave the job, or you may be missing in action or going on vacation. Someone else has to do it. So that is the reason, to be able to work in a very uniform manner, we put this comment so that even a layman comes in, looks at this plan, looks at how we have come up here, what we have done. It is so clear. You can do a very quick knowledge transition, or what we call a SKT, in a quick time and walk through what it is, and from there it is easy to maintain. And that is the way you become a Superman at work, team, by making sure that you keep everything documented, neat and structured, so that even tomorrow if you have to leave for any reason or no longer in this project, you still have given a very easy handshake. So team, as part of what I do, the training, it is just not UFT and QTP and automation and scripting and so on. It is also about this lifestyle of how we need to be successful as automation engineers or any other IT professionals. So that is the reason we need these comments. Is it clear now? Now what we will do is, as part of each of these comments, you want to be able to write a code against it. So for example, I want to open the website. How do I open mortgagecalculator.org? What is the command for it? So let's say you don't know what the command for it. How do you know? One is, look at me. I'm going to write it and you will follow that. Systemutil dot run. I'll say one is iexplore.exe. The second is comma and this URL. Now you know. As and when I introduce new things each day, you will start to learn and realize, oh, okay, this is how it is done. This is what happens. What is the other way to be able to do that? You do a quick run and see how it executes. Okay. There are things which will come out very practically. Some things you just have to remember very subtly. Over a period of 2-3 attempts, you will automatically run it. you will automatically be able to write it yourself. This is the only piece of code. There are a few pieces of code which I want you to remember as I say. Other pieces of code we can start writing very easily. What is the next value? Next one, enter home value. How do you enter a home value, team? To enter a home value, we are basically saying UFT, by this step, you should go to the application, go to that specific field called home value and enter 550,000. To do that, there is only one simple way, team. There's something called as a class name, object name. Now, what do you think is this? Class name, object name. For example, if I say car and then I say my Porsche, I'm not saying something else, okay? Then that is the one. For example, you have guests at your home. All right, just a very vague and wild example. And let's say you named your dog as Bruno. All right, but there's also another gentleman in the house called Bruno. Now, how do you know you're referring to the human Bruno or the dog Bruno? At least humans are not that stupid. We are smart enough. We can easily identify who you're calling depending on the tone and the way you're calling it, right? But automation scripts are, automation tools are. They're only as smart as you are and as smart as you have written them. So you have to tell what is the class name and what is that object name. And that is how you go about referring to that. How do I do that? Very simple thing. What is the first thing I'll say? Browser. Why browser? Because the browser is the first parent object. How do we know? Do a control R, it will open up the object repository, and if you look at your test object, the first one, it's called as mortgage calculator, and that is the class browser. If you see, it's in a tree structure. This mortgage calculator is under this. Now I can rename this and I'll say IE browser. That is the type name of the browser. And if you notice, actually it didn't change it here, it will add, we completed the sentence. And here I will say this page, this is a home page, okay? This is the name that I'm giving to this. And now team, so if I need to identify, let's say a home value, I'd say browser IE dot page home page dot WebEdit home value. And that is how I get to that object. So I need to get to that object now. As soon as I write browser and open quotes, see IE comes up. Why? Because there is only one object of type browser in that list. What is an object? What is the difference between class and object, team? Very important. This is the most important thing that we should know. And team, I'm not in a hurry, so I'm going in a very gradual fashion. Though I know we've started with the data-driven framework, I'm still trying to cover those basic concepts again and again because this is foundation level for us. Okay. What is the difference between a class and an object? Can you all look into it for a quick minute while I take a quick water break and come back and tell me what the answer is? What is class? What is an object? All right, team, I'm back. So let's see what answers I've got. Class is a data type, instance of class is object, class tell what object is about, object is an instance of variable we define for that data type, object is a blueprint of class. So the good thing about having a very large audience is you get so many viewpoints. But team, all I want you all to do is get a very clear thought process. Okay, communication is one of the most essential things that we need to have as IT engineers, especially as QA, because we interact with so many people. Okay, so it has to be very clear so that anyone can understand. Class is primarily a type of an object. It is defining a category or a type of an object. Like laptop is a class. Car is a class, house is a class. Object is a specific item in that category. My house is one object in the category or class of house. Your house is one object in that same class of house. It could be absolutely different, located 3000 miles apart, but it doesn't matter. It is still under the same classification, category or type. That is how we define any specific class. Once you build or make or create or have something that is under that classification, that will become a specific object in it. All right. So that is very important thing. So browser means what? Any browser. Any browser. But IE means what? That specific one. And we are trying to drill down. Now we're saying it's the same way. Once I say dot, I talk about page and what is the page name, and then dot WebEdit, because we are now interested in WebEdit, and let's put the home value in there. Now what we've done so far, team, is we said how do we access that specific object? Which object are we interested in here? In row 7, which is the object that we are interested in? The reason I'm asking this question, team, is I'm trying you to think with me. Because if we skip this fundamentals and then go into the next project, it will not make sense for you. It has to be very clear. It could look very foolish, but it is not. It's got very specific answers. It is not calculator. It is not no audio. Someone is having an issue there. It is not a web list and so on. It is home value, which is of a class WebEdit. The object is home value, a specific object. Why? Because there are so many other objects of WebEdit. Loan amount also WebEdit. So is interest rate or loan term or property tax. Which WebEdit? Home value. That is what we're interested in. Not the browser, not the page, the home value. You're not interested to go to my office or to my cubicle. All I said is get my file. That file is what I want. That yellow color file with whatever name and so on. That is what I asked. Okay. So that is your home value. Now, once I said dot team, I have options. If there is further child objects in it, it will come up, or what I want to do on it. So far, what we have done is identify what that object is and put it there. Next, what we will do is talk about, what did I want to say? Yeah, talk about what you want to do now. Okay, fair enough. I came to your office. What should I do with the file? Should I tear it? Should I shred it? Should I write on it? Should I read from it? Or should I bring it to you? There's so many things we could do. Depending on the type of an object, if you remember, I said you could do specific things, and those are called as methods or actions or activities that you can perform on them. On a WebEdit, what can you do? You can write specific information. So if I say dot WRIT, it does not exist. How about dot edit? Does not exist. How about dot set? That is the method. How do I know set is the method? Two ways. One, I will show you. You will see and you will say, aha, okay, so that's the method. And then you'll practice on it, and that's when you'll master it. Or you do a simple record at this time whenever you're confused in your work and say, I don't know what method I have to use. Do a record and see what it does. And then you will be able to use that. Okay. So we're going to use set, and what we're going to say is the value of it. In this case, we want to put 5,500. 550,000. We wish the homes at that price. And now let us try and run this. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to run this. Did I complete the entire test case? No. Why am I not completing it? Because we've already close to the ending time for today's session. And I want to make sure that this fundamental concept is easy for us to understand. What I'm going to do is close this browser before I run, and now we'll click on run. So what is run, team? Alright, dear robot, I've showed you everything that needs to be done. Now please, can you show it back to me? Can you show me what I've asked you to do? And now it did two things only, team. One, it opened up IE and it went to the URL mortgagecalculator.org. And how did that happen? The first step number 3 out here, line number 3. Next, it went and it put 550,000 in the home value instead of 300,000 which was there earlier. That is what it did, team. And that was the purpose of what I asked it to do. And it did it absolutely fine. This is what it's supposed to do, and it did that. Now when we come back tomorrow, we will go at a much faster rate, making sure all of this is covered, team. Do note there are some things like results and so on popping up. I'll show you how to close them tomorrow. But now I'm ready for questions, but make sure, team, of one thing. Any question must be relevant to what we are doing in the current project and what we have done so far in the project. Don't ask me questions that are going to be coming in the future. If I feel so, I will let you know. So I'll let you know that it will come. Your answer will be there in the future. And please don't ask me anything about fees and joining and all those things. You can write an email about it, please. Okay. All right, let's see. So what are you writing now? Not the comments. Is VB script correct? Very good. Anita, you're right. So the ones in green which starts with the single quote in the front are comments. That is how we know they're comments. They will not get executed. The other quotes which you see, which is not in green color, are the ones which will get executed. All right. Do we hard code the values? Very good question again. No. Yes and no. Right now I'm hard coding because that is what I want. But if my project will demand in the next 2-3 days that no, I cannot hard code, there is a problem with hard coding. What is hard coding? Hard coding is primarily saying 550,000 out here. But what if I wanted 650 or 350 or 450? How do I change it? That you have to do it at a code level. And that's basically hard coding. How do I decide which framework to use? Nope. Sorry, Purinder, very too early for me. But if you go to my YouTube account or you look at the free events within itlm.com website, you'll find the answer to it. Okay. All that I'm doing right now, team, is already available as a very, very rich catalog of good, high quality video tutorials. The reason I'm doing it over and over again, because people want to be able to fix to a specific schedule to learn things, and they want to be able to interact and, feel that thing in a live manner. Okay. How we got IE instead of Internet Explorer? Because I wrote it, Syed. I gave the name as IE. If I write FF, it will say FF. It's just the name. All right. Let's say you have a very small dog and you call it as a giant. Doesn't matter. It's a small puppy, but you're calling it as a giant. It is the name you give. So we're calling it by any name that we want. What is the difference between QTP and UFT? Primarily the fact that it's just a different version. QTP 10, then UFT came up with 11, 12.0, 12.01, 12.02. It's just upgraded versions of it with few more features into it. All right, Supriya, your question. Hey, Karthik, only one concern, and I'm sure this is very common to a lot of other participants here. Is there remembering the commands? Is there any other method to learn these commands? Supriya, very, very simple. Very easy question for me to answer. May not be that easy to do, but it's a very simple thing. There are only 2 ways to remember anything. Okay. One is try and mug up and make sure that that is the right one. And I'm the last person on this earth who will ever do it. Second is keep doing something repeatedly, one by one, one by one, one by one. You will automatically remember it. What I'm showing today was already explained in all the videos that I asked people to watch so far. What I'll do tomorrow as part of project 2 will again be a repetition of what we did, a little bit more faster, much more faster. Okay. So what we'll do in 5 days, the next project we'll do it in 1 day and go to new concepts. That is how we try and explore this. And the best way as a suggestion to you is keep up the pace, start practicing with me, and you will automatically, even before you consciously realize how do I remember this, you will do it. Okay. For anyone who's starting, team, for example, if you say ask me to learn piano or music, it's not going to be easy for me. Absolutely, it's going to be a nightmare. But it's the same process of learning anywhere. Start slow, happily enjoy it, try and play around a little, and slowly you'll get it. Don't be in a hurry to master it. All right. Okay, let's see. Once the trial version finishes, can I uninstall and reinstall Gary? Please go to the forum. There are good amount of answers on this specific topic. You should be able to see it. Do we have right class name? Yeah, class name is correct. Let's see. So team, I'm just taking questions which is relevant. If I'm not answering any of the question, then it means that I have moved on from that question. Please give answer of my second question. What is his first question? I don't know, Sagar. So how will I know his second question? Can you please copy and paste, because there's so many questions out here. Why did they remove expert view for UFT version? In fact, they didn't remove expert view. This is expert view. They just renamed it to action 1. There was a keyword view and expert view. Now, instead of this, they have this start action 1 and so on. That's the only difference. Yeah, why did they remove? I don't know. But for me and for you, don't even look at any other view expert except this expert view. That is what you should look at. Okay. What if we want to open Browserla in Mozilla? So we'll be coming to that later. Can you explain what is TSYS, Pega systems? Nope, not even related to what we're doing, please. Can we drag and drop object? Again, not related. So team, please let it be related to what we're doing, because we want to go in a flow. Your question is important. Unfortunately, it is not the right timing or not the right forum right now. But do we need to watch any other videos other than 6 hours videos? For now, no. Just those videos are good. What is the difference between automated testing and manual testing? What is the difference between? Okay. Okay. Sagar, automated manual testing is when you write down what you need to do and you do it yourself. Automated testing is when you write down what you need to do and someone else does it for you. That's it. For example, you have a servant at home. Okay. You say what are the groceries you want, where you want it from, what are the quantities. You write it in a list and you go and get it. You do the same. You write it. You know what you want. You write it. You go and get it. It's manual testing. That is the difference. All right. All right, team. That's it for today. What we're going to do is we'll continue tomorrow. I'm sure there'll be many more questions that will come up as we go along. Okay. The good thing is a lot of questions will get answered as I continue to do it, as I continue to do the session. So at that time, you can explore more. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And once again, sorry for yesterday. There was a major confusion in the timing. I didn't even realize until someone from a team called me. But then again, I'm glad we caught up today. Let's continue day 3 tomorrow, and then day 4 will be on Monday, I believe. Just look at the GoToWebinar schedule. It's there in the email, and that is how we will follow. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye for now. We'll see you back in the next session. Take care. Bye all.